All right, today we're going to talk about something pretty amazing. We're looking at a single piece of software that didn't just tweak a programming language, it completely reshaped its entire community. We are talking, of course, about Composer for PHP.
But let's back up a second and start with a problem that every developer faces. As your projects get bigger and more complex, you start relying on more and more code from other people. So how do you actually manage all of those pieces, what we call dependencies, without the whole thing just imploding?
To really get why Composer was such a game changer, we have to jump in our time machine and go back to what PHP development looked like before it existed. And honestly, it was kind of the Wild West, a real free-for-all.
So imagine you need a library to do something, like send emails or handle images. Before Composer, you were on your own. You had to find that code, download it, and then figure out how to manually wire it into your project. And let me tell you, that was just asking for a headache.
I mean, look at this old process. It was so fragile. You'd go searching online, download some random zip file, unzip it, and then basically just guess where the files were supposed to go. And that last step, hope for no conflicts, that was a very real and very stressful part of the job. You'd cross your fingers and pray that this new library didn't just bring your whole application crashing down.
But then, right around the early 2010s, a solution finally showed up. A tool that was specifically designed to bring some order to this chaos and drag PHP development into the modern era. And that tool was Composer.
Okay, that definition sounds a little dry and technical. I get it. But let's break it down. Application level just means it manages the code for each project separately so they don't mess with each other. And dependency manager? Well, think of it like a professional librarian for your code. You just hand it a list of the books you need, and it goes out, finds the exact right version of each one, and organizes them perfectly on your shelf for you.
Now, this whole idea didn't just appear out of thin air. The creators of Composer were smart. They looked at what was already working great in other programming communities. They saw tools like NPM in the Node.js world and Bundler for Ruby, and said, hey, PHP desperately needs one of these.
So, two developers, Neil Zatterman and Jordi Boggiano, got to work in April 2011. Less than a year later, on March 1st, 2012, they released the first official version. And from that point on, it just exploded. It quickly became the absolute non-negotiable standard for any serious PHP development.
So how did it actually solve the problem? What does this thing do? Well, let's take a look at the workflow Composer brought to the table, which is totally different and, a million times better.
The first really big change is that Composer is a command line tool. So instead of all that clicking and dragging of files, developers just type a simple command. And that might not sound like a big deal, but it allows for incredible precision, for things to be repeatable, and, the holy grail, automation.
And this new workflow, wow, it's just night and day compared to what we saw before. Now you just list what you need in one single file, run one simple command, Composer install, and that's it, you're done. Everything gets downloaded, put in exactly the right place, and is ready to go. The efficiency gain is just massive.
Composer also gave us this other magical feature called auto-loading. See, before you had to litter the top of your files with include or require for every little piece of code you wanted to use. It was a mess. With auto-loading, Composer handles all that. You just use the code, and PHP automatically finds it and loads it when it's needed. It makes your own code so much cleaner and lets you focus on what you're actually trying to build.
But hang on. A dependency manager is only useful if it can actually find the packages you want, right? So when you run that Composer install command, where is it getting all this stuff from? This is where the other half of the magic happens.
And that's Packagist. The easiest way to think about it is like a giant app store, but just for PHP code. It's the main, central warehouse that Composer talks to. Developers from all over the world publish their reusable libraries to Packagist, creating this incredible shared ecosystem of code that anyone can tap into.
So you see, it's not just that Composer is a handy little tool. The really crucial point here is that it laid the foundation for a completely new way of building things in PHP. Its impact was absolutely enormous.
And don't think for a second that this is some dusty old tool that everyone's forgotten about. No way. The project is alive and well, constantly being updated and improved by the community. It's a living, breathing part of the ecosystem that's always evolving to meet the needs of today's developers.
And if you need proof of its adoption, just look at this list. I mean, come on. Symfony, Laravel, Drupal, Magento, these are the titans of the PHP world. Pretty much every major framework and CMS you can think of is built on Composer now. It isn't just an option anymore, it's the bedrock.
And that's really the big takeaway here. Before Composer, the PHP world was all over the place, fragmented. Everyone was reinventing the wheel. Composer created a standard. It made sharing code, reusing code, and collaborating on code incredibly easy, transforming PHP into the modern, powerful, and unified ecosystem we see today.
It's just such a perfect example of how the right tool at the right time can solve a massive, crippling problem for an entire community. Which, leaves us with one final question to chew on. If Composer solved the dependency crisis, what's the next big problem out there that's just waiting for its own revolutionary tool?